hi there, folks. Welcome to the program. This, of course, is Stinchfield, the podcast. So, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino drop a couple of bombshells in their interview with Maria Bartiromo, and I want to go through some of those today. Plus, we're going to talk about everything surrounding Joe Biden, surrounding this cancer diagnosis, and why I believe they knew he had cancer all along. This is not new. This is a cover-up. This is designed to be a diversion to take away from the release of the Her tapes, the special prosecutor that makes President Biden look so out of it, as we knew it would. And then, of course, the new book coming out from Jake Tapper. But to begin with Dan Bongino and Kash Patel, so interesting. First bombshell piece of news is that when it comes to the Russian collusion hoax, they have new information about just how deep it went. And remember, Kash Patel was the one who uncovered the Russian collusion hoax. He was the one at the forefront of exposing it. He says it goes even deeper than he knew. More information is going to be very damning. What will this mean for us to hold people accountable? There's some clues in their interview that nobody may be held accountable. Statute of limitations issues. Then there's the Jeffrey Epstein issue. Dan Bongino and Kash Patel tell us that Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. No way. Their exact words are, "We have read the files. We can tell you from the files that Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide." Now, respectfully, I love these two guys. And more than any other conservative commentators and now members of government, these two guys are my friends. I spent a lot of time with Dan Bongino at the NRA, and I spent a lot of time with Kash Patel on the Real America's Voice show and beyond. So I like and respect these guys. But you can't say in one breath, "We've read the files, so we believe it, it's suicide." And in another breath, Russian collusion hoax, "We've read the files, we have new files, we don't believe anything they were telling us. We've got new information." So we're going to go through the evidence, I believe, again, why Jeffrey Epstein was murdered. I'm convinced somebody murdered him. But I trust Dan Bongino and Kash Patel unless there are powers bigger than us that have gotten to them, not to compromise them, but, well, let's talk about this on the program today. Before we do, though, folks, I want to tell you about my friends over at Colonial Metals Group. Listen to me. It's so important that you realize right now, China is dumping literally U.S. bonds, grabbing prime American farmland and rolling out a new digital currency. This from China. So I hate doom talk as much as you, all right? But it is pretty clear Communist China is plotting a financial Pearl Harbor against the United States that could put the total plug on the U.S. dollar, devastate your IRA and your 401k. So what is the portfolio protection maneuver? It's gold. I tell you this. President Trump is a genius because he's letting retirement savers like all of you protect your life savings 100% tax-free. The one inflation-proof asset that has survived the fall of currencies, of course, is precious metals. So I want you to call the experts over at Colonial Metals Group. 1-800-458-7356. That's 1-800-458-7356. Get your free gold guide to investing in 2025. freegoldguide.com/grant. freegoldguide.com/grant. Plus, you could stand to receive $7,500 in free silver. That's freegoldguide.com/grant. 1-800-458-7356. All right, with that, folks, let's get the show started.
Uncensored and unapologetic. This is Stinchfield. Here's your host, Grant Stinchfield.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Happy to have you along now. Jeffrey Epstein, did he kill himself or did someone murder him? Feel free to comment in the chat. We got the Rumble chat up. The Getter chat is up. The Facebook chat is up. YouTube chat as well. All two of you in the YouTube channel. I'm completely censored there. But I'd love to see what you think. Do you believe Dan Bongino and Kash Patel, who now adamantly declare that Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. Now, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino are my friends. I would consider them good friends. I can text either one of them. They will text me right back as good friends do, okay? So I have high respect for these guys. I respect their opinion. But as good friends often do, they often disagree. I do not believe Jeffrey Epstein killed himself with a bedsheet back on April 10th, 2019. I believe the man accused of sex trafficking, creating such heinous circumstances for girls underage, by the way, to be used and abused by people in positions of power, including some of the highest profile politicians, actors, actresses, princes that you can imagine. I just do not believe that he committed suicide. I think there's a Clinton connection to all of this, too. I don't think it's a coincidence that Donald Trump tweets out, puts a truth out about the Clinton body count on the same day that Kash Patel and Dan Bongino says, no, nothing to see here. He committed suicide. So let me play you the clip from Dan and Kash on with Maria Bartiromo, who does such a great job. And you tell me what you think.
You said Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. People don't believe it.
Well, I mean, listen, they have a right to their opinion, but as someone who has worked as a public defender, as a prosecutor, who's been in that prison system, who's been in the Metropolitan Detention Center, who's been in segregated housing, you know a suicide when you see one, and that's what that was.
He killed himself. You want me to? I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
I know it's hard work.
He's pretty adamant about it. But let me explain some things that happened that day that do not make any sense, that do not lead any reasonable person to conclude that he killed himself. So you're asking me to believe one set of FBI files. Notice their words. I have gone through the files. Not I've conducted my own investigation. It's I've gone through the files. He killed himself. Well, in the files we now know are whatever the FBI wanted you to believe, not what happened. The FBI files are about a deep state covering for members of the deep state. So I don't believe what's in the FBI files. So I appreciate you read them, and I know that Kash and Dan also don't believe what's in many of the FBI files. Maybe they believe this one, and I take them at their word. But you're going to ask me to believe the Russian collusion hoax files, the Steele dossier, that was part of the FBI files. We don't believe any of it. They throw out all those files, Dan and Kash do, and say it's garbage because of where it comes from. Garbage in, garbage out. Now, all of a sudden, the one case you're asking us to believe this set of files? I just can't. I don't believe it, and I don't believe it for a reason. I think, one, it's very difficult to kill yourself with bed sheets. That's how Jeffrey Epstein allegedly killed himself. Now let's go through let me put it this way. Kash Patel has always said, don't believe in coincidences in Washington. I tell you the same thing over and over again. There are no such thing as coincidences in Washington, D.C. So what you're asking us to believe is that Jeffrey Epstein, who had relationships, organized the sex games for the rich and famous, hung himself with bed sheets. At the same time, 2 guards fell asleep. They didn't check on him for 30 minutes. The cameras in the hallway were malfunctioning. Epstein's family's autopsy by a renowned pathologist found that it was consistent with strangulation, not hanging, because they had cartilage in the thyroid that was all busted up and the hyoid bone was broken, which would only happen during strangulation, according to him. They transferred his cellmate out before. A few days earlier, he tries to commit suicide, and then they take him off of suicide watch. None of that makes sense to me. All of that leads me to believe there's foul play. So what could be in the files that would contradict that? I don't think anything. If there was video of this. We would know about it, I would think. With all the conspiracy theories, they would have showed us the video of Jeffrey Epstein hanging himself, but we're told that video does not exist. So let's go to the Rumble chat. In the middle of the investigation, so they can't say otherwise. Okay, so this is one where, again, it's the common theme I get anytime we question Pam Bondi, anytime we question Kash Patel, who's a friend of mine. I know Pam as well. I wouldn't consider her a friend. All very upstanding people. But this has nothing to do with the middle of an investigation. It's not the middle of an investigation. This investigation is closed and over. And if they were still investigating it, Kash Patel, as a member of the FBI, as the director of the FBI, would tell you, listen, we're going through the files. We're redoing the investigation. I'm not going to comment one way or the other. You don't make a conclusion. So I would ask this nice viewer of ours who says it's the middle of Kitty Moore in the middle of investigation, so they can't say otherwise. Why would they say anyway? If it's the middle of the investigation, they're not going to make any conclusions because the investigation should play it out. He makes a conclusion. Look, let me play it for you again to make no mistake about this. This is a conclusion.
You said Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. People don't believe it.
Well, I mean, listen, they have a right to their opinion, but as someone who has worked as a public defender, as a prosecutor, who's been in that prison system, who's been in the Metropolitan Detention Center, who's been in segregated housing, you know a suicide when you see one, and that's what that was.
He killed himself. You want me to? I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
I know it's hard work.
So I love talking about this because, folks, just because you question somebody that's on our side doesn't mean you're being negative, okay? It just means you're telling the truth. Kash Patel's not going to have a problem with me doing this podcast. Neither is Dan Bongino. Neither one of them. We'll go out. I'm going to Washington, D.C. We'll all go out. We'll have a cocktail and we'll be laughing about it, okay? This is not an issue. Kitty says, I don't like listening to the negative. Where's the negative here? The only negative I'm giving you is the evidence as to why I believe that he was murdered. And it's important that we get the real story on this. Now, there is the Clinton body count in all of this. Do all of you believe that Jeffrey Epstein was very connected to the Clintons and that probably most likely Bill Clinton was involved in all of this? There's rumors of blackmails and tapes of all of these global figures, including Bill Clinton. Okay? The timing of this also doesn't make sense. The timing of this comes, he died days before a major court hearing was about to unseal the Epstein documents. Now, we're told we're going to get the files. And I want you to go back when Pam Bondi first took over. They made this big announcement, you're getting the Epstein files. And they called in a whole bunch of influencers. And I'm going to tell you, normally I would have loved to have been in on this. Thank God I was not one of the, quote, influencers that was called in to release the Epstein files, which was nothing more than a phone list that had basically already been released. And they had egg on their faces and they looked silly. Then they said the FBI didn't give them all the documents. Then they said all of it was an unfolding of something that I think they have not gotten to the bottom of yet. Or, you ready for this? You may not like this. Or there are people so important in those Epstein files, so important possibly to the MAGA movement and success of America, that they can't release it. And I want to be very clear on this. I am not talking about President Trump. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt President Trump was not involved with this Epstein nonsense. How do I know this? I know President Trump personally. I've been with him. I've sat with him. I've talked with him at length. I've watched his responses to this. I've watched the videos, and I know the history of Epstein and Trump. Trump is not a part of this. But there may be somebody else that is so important to the MAGA movement. And I'm not going to speculate who. In fact, I don't even have anybody in mind. But it's the only other way I could come to a conclusion why Bongino and Patel would say, no, he committed suicide. Nothing to see here. What could be in those files that would contradict the guards falling asleep, the cameras malfunctioning, the guard being relieved, taken off suicide watch days before the court case is about to be read, that you're asking us to believe one set of files and not the others? What could be in there that is so much evidence that would make you change your mind? Until I hear that, I'm not changing my mind. And notice what Kash Patel does, which is so great. And this is what I love so much about him and Dan. People can believe what they want, but I'm here to tell you, he's not calling us idiots. He's not calling us conspiracy theorists. He's saying believe what you want. But I'm going to give you this information. So God bless Kash Patel for that. All right. I'm going to play you some more clips because there are some very, very important things that came out of that interview with Dan Bongino and Maria Bartiromo, including more bombshell news about the Russian collusion hoax. So we will talk about that. What is this? Before I get in this. So kill Illuminati. Kill Illuminati? Is that what? K Illuminati? Maybe that's what the name is. I think they are holding back the truth either strategically so they don't spook the culprits or because they have been threatened or told to not to from higher up the chain of command. I tend to agree with you on that. Very bad eye contact. I also have issues with Maxwell sitting in prison. There is something fishy. The real powers are ensuring the narrative is maintained. You need to question more irrelevant. Use your common sense. Media can only hide so much. Agree on all. One reason why you guys are here is because we are critical thinkers, something the left is not, okay? Hey, if you're a critical thinker, you're going to love this. You know that Bitcoin is fabulous. You know that data centers are the hottest investment going right now, typically only open to some of the only wealthiest of individuals, both Bitcoin and data centers. But if you want to take part in both without the high risk, I want you to talk to my friends at NFN8. This is a fabulous company. They've transformed the investment landscape with this investment deal that they have going. Get20now.com will help spell out what's happening here on the website, but it's about Bitcoin mining, data centers, technologically advanced ways of mining Bitcoin, and on your investment, instead of worrying about the price of Bitcoin, they're going to pay you up to 20% annualized interest paid monthly on your investment. 20% annualized interest on your investment. Where are you going to get that? I have made a sizable investment with them. They have lived up to their promises with me. I urge you, if you have to move some money around, talk to my friends at get20now.com. Again, Get20Now because of the interest rate. Get20now.com. Fill out the form there. They'll get right back to you. Make sure you take their call. You're not going to want to miss this opportunity. I'm not sure how long we'll be around. A lot of response from Stinchfield's Army on this one. Get20now.com. Get20now.com. Okay. So I told you I'd play you more of Dan Bongino and Kash Patel being interviewed by Maria Bartiromo.
Well, Dan, throughout the Russia collusion story and the rest.
Look, I can speak to the folks that were in our seats, our predecessors, and they intentionally failed the American public by putting on the biggest DC deception game we've ever seen. They said the FBI was the most storied institution for law enforcement, and it was. And it will be again very soon. But when the likes of Comey and McCabe and Strzok and company came in here with the James Bakers of the world and intentionally lied to a federal court only to rig a presidential election by lying to the American public and using taxpayer dollars, likely illegally, to fund this entire operation and then withhold exculpatory information from a federal court that I used to appear before to manhunt terrorists, that's what broke the FBI. And then when they were caught, they lied about it. And you and a few others like Dan and others were brave enough to cover it 6, 7, 8 years ago. And we're still talking about it today because as Congress is working rigorously with us, the Crossfire Hurricane documents are coming fast and hard.
All right, so let me just make a comment here. Back to Epstein. So he's talking about the Russian collusion hoax, Crossfire Hurricane as it was dubbed, and he's talking about how the FBI lied to us. How literally they concocted documents and testimony and rigged the FISA courts, and we couldn't trust a word they were saying, but yet they want us to trust they read the files on the Epstein documents. I can't. But I love these guys, and these guys are great patriots. So when it comes to this Russian collusion hoax, now they got me. Now I'm right there with them.
And they're being sent there unredacted so we can have full accountability. And that's how you restore what the trust that was lost to the American public when it comes to the FBI.
Yeah, but come on, Director, with all due respect, we've been talking about this for a long time, and I've been demanding accountability for many, many years. You mentioned Comey, Strzok, and the rest. They've got TV shows. They've got media platforms. They're fine. There's been no accountability.
Well, look.
All right, so I want you to listen closely to what Kash says here. This is going to be somewhat disappointing to all of you, and it's not Kash's fault. He's going to talk about the statute of limitations. There was a reason things were conducted on the timeline that they were, and things were drawn out the way they were, including by members of the Republican Party in Congress over the last 8 years. Many of the statute of limitations are 5 years. They're going to be up. You're not going to get the accountability you want. Now, there's some other things they can go after many of the big players on that are less than the 5-year statute of limitations. But what Kash Patel is doing here is giving you a clue. Not saying it flat out, but giving you a clue that you're most likely going to be disappointed when it comes to accountability from some of these players who tried to pull a coup and take over the United States with Joe Biden, and in many respects did after the 2020 election.
It's a fair criticism, but what I will tell people is we weren't here in the FBI in the last 5 years when we had statute of limitations that were still in play, where we could have investigated criminal conduct. Most of these statute of limitations are 5 years old. And we will investigate criminal conduct where we find a righteous case to do so, and the law and the facts allow us to. But a lot of it we're precluded from. So we'll take the criticism, and it's rightfully so, that could we have done more in the past? Sure, people before us could have, but what we can do now is continue to put out the documents and the information that these people withheld from the American public. And I'm just telling you right now, as much as we know about Crossfire Hurricane, he and I just found out more last week. And we're continuing to work with Congress to put those documents out. That's how vindictive and vicious the former leadership structure here was. Not only did they bastardize the FISA process and lie to the American public, they withheld and hid documentation and put it in rooms where people weren't supposed to look. And it's a good thing we're here now to clean it up, and you're about to see a wave of transparency.
What do you mean?
Just give us about a week or two.
Okay. Well, I can tell you right now that the judge that gave us...
All right. A week or two. New information. A wave of transparency. Kash Patel is not going to say that unless he means it. Pam Bondi told us we'd get the Epstein files, and then she released the phone logs, and Kash Patel is not Pam Bondi. Kash Patel knows, Pam Bondi does too, but Kash Patel specifically knows what the conservative media needs and what they will do when you say one thing and another happens. Look at the backlash Pam got. And in fact, I would offer this up. I like Pam Bondi. I think she'll be a decent attorney general. I'm somewhat disappointed in the pace of things. I know things take longer than we all want them to. My guess is if there's a member of the administration that will not go all 4 years, it may end up being Pam Bondi. Not because she's a horrible attorney general, but I just worry that the speed of Trump, working at Trump speed, she's not living up to it. Not yet anyway, so I give her more chances. And I really do like her, and I think she will be good, but she's got to get going on this a little bit quicker. So notice here what he says, give him a week. the most devious and deceitful administration of the FBI we have ever seen. Goes back to Hoover, by the way. So this is amazing. And remember, Kash Patel also said that he's moving the FBI headquarters because, one, it's not safe. Literally, it's falling apart. We heard some crazy stories about what's going on in the FBI headquarters. The U.S. government should not have government buildings that are falling apart. So we shall see. I know we want more. Will we get more? Let's see.
Both ways. You want it done quickly, we'll do it. And you know what'll happen? Just what happened last time. Those same Spygate collusion perpetrators sued the government, got money, got all this. You want that? We'll do it. We'll do it quickly and do it wrong.
But are you saying you found things that even you didn't know about? I mean, you were at the core of this.
Yes.
Yes.
I was the lead Russiagate investigator for the House Intelligence Committee. And I've been on both your shows in a prior life talking about it. And I'm telling you and the American public that we have now found material and information and people who wanted to hide it from the world since we got in these seats. And we, as the deputy said, we are trying to do it in a fashion where not only are we informing the American public of what happened, but we can have accountability for it. And that takes a little bit more time. And when you layer on the fact that we are rolling out our priorities on violent crime and defending the homeland, you know, we're running a three-part animal here, and we're going 100 miles an hour on each single one.
And they're doing a very good job. When you look at the amount of top 10 criminal most wanted list, Biden had no arrests over the last year. They've got like almost everybody on the top 10 list. They keep having to fill the ranks up here. But what Dan Bongino said is also very important. All of us are hungry for speed and transparency. You can't do that if you want to protect the rights of innocent individuals and also protect the rights of the taxpayers to not get sued in the process that you release this information on. Maybe call them public officials. Call them bad actors inside the FBI. The last thing I want is American taxpayer dollars not watching these people go to jail and having to pay them because some liberal radical court decided that Kash Patel and Dan Bongino defamed them by releasing this kind of information. That would be the worst case scenario. You think I want them to get money over this? No. So on this, I take Dan and Kash at their word that they most certainly are doing their best to work on this. So let's play another clip from them here.
You said illegal alien criminals and child predators are next in your ongoing crackdown.
Oh, yeah.
How are you going to do it?
The illegal immigration problem with 20 million people came in. Yeah, okay, most of them probably were here to work in it, but a lot of them weren't. They were here to traffic in kids and fentanyl. If you were here illegally, the administration's approach, which the director and I have actioned through the agents in the field, is, listen, I'm speaking a bit hyperbolically, but correct me if I'm wrong, right? You're the lawyer. We're giving you about 5 minutes to cooperate. If you're here illegally, 5 minutes, you're out. Title 8, AEA, whatever we've got. We're not wasting an agent who's making, a decent salary, who we train. We're not wasting 3 weeks of his time to beg you for information, for a proffer. We're not. We're kicking you out. The president's going to seal the border.
And that's what people want. That's the speed. So I'm going to ask you this. We got to give them some grace and patience on the big investigations into the bad actors. Be patient. It's hard. I know it. But what we want speed on is getting the bad actors from illegal alien perspective, unlawful entrance into the United States, get them out of here as quick as possible. Get the bad ones who served their time in prison that are now out, released after days, get them back to their home country. And do anything you can do to get them back there in short order, because we don't want the courts tied up, beds tied up, agents tied up, going and arguing this in court. You're here illegally. You don't have the rights of a green card holder or an American citizen to this so-called due process. Your due process was when you decided to cross into the United States illegally. We have a right to deport you. You do not have a right to make a case of why you get to stay here after you snuck in. Now it gets complicated because Biden rigged the system in their favor, not ours. He rigged the system and gave all of these people temporary parole, which in the eyes of probably even the most conservative court are going to come to a conclusion because Biden illegally gave them this instant parole at no fault of the illegal, because, right, they were just following what Biden told them to do. Sign up on the app, come on in. He gave them rights to go argue these things in court. Now, I like the idea of loading them up and getting them out of here, and once they're out of here, there's no way to get them back. Argue this in court. Oh, well, too bad, so sorry. That's a little rougher to do, but we shall see how that plays out. All right, one more from Kash Patel.
In the first 2-3 months that we've been in the seat under Donald Trump's administration, he has sealed the border. He has stopped border crossings. So where's all the fentanyl coming from still? Where's the trafficking coming from still? Where are all the narco traffickers going to keep bringing this stuff into the country? The northern border. Our adversaries have partnered up with the CCP and others, Russia, Iran, on a variety of different criminal enterprises, and they're sailing around to Vancouver and coming in by air. And the sheer tyranny of distance of the northern border and the lack of cooperation from federal authorities in prior administrations to actually firm up that northern border is what's causing a continuation of violent crime. Now, we're focused on it, and we're calling our state and local law enforcement partners up there. But you know who has to get to step in is Canada, because they're making it up there and shipping it down here. And I don't care about getting into this debate about making someone the 51st state or not, but they are our partner in the north. And say what you want about Mexico, but they helped us seal the southern border. The facts speak for themselves. The border that's open, I'll give you a statistic that I gave to Congress that nobody was paying attention to. Over 300 known or suspected terrorists crossed into this country last year illegally. Known or suspected terrorists, not illegals. Not just illegals, known or suspected terrorists. 85% of them came in through the northern border. Wow. This year, 100 known.
So known or suspected terrorists, 300 of them come through the northern border. Why are they going to the northern border? There's two problems. Canada has a very loose immigration system. It's easy for these Muslim jihadists to get into Canada. Why are they coming through the northern border? The northern border is porous. We were so focused on the southern border, and for good reason. We were being overrun by tens of thousands of illegal aliens a day. Where are you going to triage? Where are you going to put your resources? Of course, on the southern border. The northern border has always been open. I remember when I worked for Channel 30, the NBC station in Hartford, Connecticut, after 9/11, 2002, a year after 9/11. Probably not even a year, probably a few months. 9/11 was in September. It was probably April or May of 2002. I go to the northern border and I hike along the northern border with cameras, cross in and out of Canada. Nobody stopped me. And guess what? Today, you're talking almost 25 years later, nothing has changed. So good on Kash Patel putting some focus into the northern border and really holding Canada responsible. All of this tariff, you want to call it a war that we have with Canada, I think it's a shot across the bow saying, hey, get your finances, get your immigration system, get your border security in order. Start protecting us as much as we protect Canada. Remember, President Trump turned to the leader of Canada and says, hey, we got your back. You know, if anything ever happened, we got you. And we do. What does Canada do for us? Nothing. They certainly didn't stop 300 known terrorists from coming into the United States, or at least 85% of them. So Kash Patel is on to something here as well, as always. I thought this was a fascinating interview. Maria Bartiromo does such a good job. Her interviews get to the heart of what we need to hear about, as opposed to the CNN and freaking CBS Face the Nation and all this stupid nonsense. All they do is try to fry Republicans. Hey, a shout out, by the way. I got a buddy of mine watching, Andrew Pollack, who is out on his great, I don't know, call it a ranch in Oregon. Parkland dad, who's become such a good friend of mine. Buddy, it's good to see you in the Facebook chat. Thank you for watching. I owe you a phone call, so I will call. But Andrew Pollack, you want to talk about a great patriot, folks, and proof that great patriots watch this podcast? In the Facebook chat, there's Andrew Pollack. And thank you, buddy, for that. And everybody else, too, by the way. If you're watching, give me a follow. Rumble is my main platform. Subscribe, follow, share the like, but on Facebook as well. Wherever you are, subscribe to the channel. So important you get a notification when we come up. And then, of course, there's my website, grantstinchfield.com, grantstinchfield.com to sign up for the email list. But before I want to do that, I want to tell you about a new sponsor of mine. This is scary freaking stuff, folks. Have you heard about the DeepSeek data breach? So DeepSeek is this China's AI data scraping company. Suffered a massive breach, dumping over 1 million highly sensitive American records onto the dark web. This includes names, email addresses, relatives, addresses, work histories, other personal details, handing cyber criminals everything they need to target you. Well, I signed up for this company, patriot-protect.com/grant. This company, Patriot Protect, is unbelievable. They've already started working on scrubbing my info from these sites. So if you think you weren't affected, think again. DeepSeek gathered information without your permission, leaked it without your knowledge. It's not just a password leak. This is the kind of information that criminals use to impersonate you, hijack your accounts, destroy your finances, and more. Patriot Protect's blackout service searches the dark web, finds your information, removes it from the people search site scammers use to hunt for victims. Their search and destroy protocol wipes your personal information from hundreds of data broker sites, and then they consistently monitor for new threats, all for about the same cost of keeping your porch light on, okay? Don't wait until their next victim. Take action today. Sign up for Patriot Protect. Here's how you do it. Go to patriot-protect.com/grant. That's patriot-protect.com/grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 15% off. Again, I signed up for this. They're already working on mine, and I'm already seeing results. Patriot-protect.com/grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 15% off. Grateful for their sponsorship of this program as well. All right. What was the other big news this weekend, folks? You want to take a wild stab at it? Well, the other big news, of course, was that Joe Biden has prostate cancer. Really? So you're telling me Joe Biden has stage 5 prostate cancer when every man over 40 years is getting a finger woohoo up you know where to diagnose prostate cancer, and the president of the United States has it undiagnosed for years? I don't think so. Not a chance. He knew he had cancer. I'm telling you, and the evidence shows me that he knew he had cancer. This is now a diversion to cover up for the Robert Hur tapes that were released that are so damaging and damning against not just Joe Biden, but against Democrats who pushed him to run again and allowed him to run again and enabled him to run again, including Jill Biden. Disgusting, quite frankly, when you hear these tapes and how bad they are, not just Joe Biden. And then, of course, Jake Tapper's book and others coming out, all showing how mentally incapable, physically incapable Joe Biden was. Now, well, David Axelrod spelled it out. Why would we announce he has cancer now?
His medical condition now, his announced medical condition now, do you believe that silences or delays a lot of conversations about his, last year and a half of his presidency for now?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think those conversations are going to happen, but they should be more muted and set aside for now as he's struggling through this.
Muted? It should be muted? What did he say?
More muted and set aside for now as he's struggling through this.
That's David Axelrod. He's like the top advisor to Obama's and Clinton's, Biden's. He's the architect of all the crazy shit that we watch. And so what is he saying here? Yes, we need to tamp down the criticism of Joe Biden. He now has cancer. Look, I feel bad for Joe Biden that he got stage 5 cancer. Unlike Democrats, I don't wish cancer on any of my enemies, especially political foes. Now, do I wish jail on them? Yes. But I don't wish cancer on Joe Biden. And the more I look at this, the more I realize Joe Biden was used. I believe Barack Obama is an evil man. I believe Hillary Clinton is an evil person. I actually don't believe Bill Clinton's evil. I believe he's now changing, going more down the road of radical leftism only because he thinks that's the way you're supposed to go. But I don't think Bill Clinton was evil. Obama, I did. Hillary Clinton, I most certainly do. Michelle Obama, I most certainly do. I don't know if Joe Biden was evil. I think Joe Biden was used. I think he was duped. I think he became angrier and grumpier along the way. He was more willing to do very bad stuff to Americans. But I think at Joe Biden's core in the end, he wasn't as bad as the Nancy Pelosi's of the world, of these real sly, devious thinkers that concoct these schemes against Americans. So do I want to see him go and die by cancer? No, I'm just happy that he's out of office and that we can move forward with President Trump in office. President Trump offered up his condolences, and he didn't say anything crazy about Joe Biden's cancer. He just said, we're sorry to learn of this diagnosis. It was a classy move. Now, I told you that I actually think that Joe Biden had cancer before, knew he had cancer before, because he admitted it. Listen to this clip. It's about 30 seconds. He says it at the end.
And because it was a 4-lane highway.
This is in 2022, by the way, just to make that clear.
That was accessible. My mother drove us, and rather than us be able to walk. And guess what? The first frost, you know what was happening. You had to put on your windshield wipers to get literally the oil slick off the window. That's why I and so damn many other people I grew up have cancer. And why can't, for the longest time, Delaware had the highest cancer rate in the nation.
That's why I and other people I grew up had cancer. Now, obviously, he can't finish a sentence or complete it in a meaningful way. Joe Biden normally screws up what he's saying, so it could be a screw up. But he literally says, that's why I have cancer. Now, I think that I would take away from this is that Joe Biden has cancer.
That's why I and so damn many other people I grew up have cancer.
That's why I and so many other damn people I grew up have cancer. All right. I wish he could speak because we'd know more about what he's trying to say if he was able to speak. And that was in 2022, I believe. Now, when he announces his departure from the White House, or at least departure from the race. So he says, you know what? I'm stepping down. I'm not running. Kamala Harris is going to take over for me. I want you to listen to this reporter who spoke to his brother and what she says. All right. This is 2024 when Joe Biden gets out of the race.
CBS News had a brief conversation with Frank Biden, one of President Biden's two younger brothers. And here's what he told us. He said, I'm incredibly proud of my brother. Selfishly, I will have him back to enjoy whatever time we have left. He is a genuine hero. Country over.
Doesn't matter what else she says. To enjoy whatever time we have left? Who says that? Now, I play gin rummy, a card game. I play it with a bunch of, I call them old guys. Now, there are some guys my age, some guys younger, not many, but I play a lot of gin rummy up at my golf club, and I love these guys. Some of them, 94 years old, sharp as a tack. I want them on my team every day. I never would think of saying, I'm enjoying my time with so-and-so or whatever time I have left. The only time I would ever say that is if someone tells me they're diagnosed with terminal cancer or a terminal disease, and then I'd say, I'm just going to enjoy my time I have left with them. But I don't say that about normal, healthy people. Why would Frank Biden say that? I believe because Joe Biden had cancer. That's why. So now this gets back to the tapes, the audio tapes of Joe Biden and the release of the Robert Hur tapes. Listen to the bald cue ball that nobody likes.
Look, this is breaking news that came just about 2 hours ago, and it is now rippling through, television media, online. How are people consuming this? How is it reaching people?
And, I'm seeing some prostate cancer survivors, people who have lived with this disease, who have been through this, expressing support, both condolences, but also support and cheering Biden on as he faces this. The timing, Jessica, is just extraordinary. We know from the statement from his personal spokesman that Biden learned of the diagnosis on Friday. Well, what was the biggest Biden story on Friday? It was the release of those audio excerpts from his conversations with Robert Hur back in 2023.
You hear what he says? The timing is just extraordinary. Again, the theme of this podcast today is there are no such thing as coincidences. It's not just a coincidence that all of a sudden Joe Biden's cancer diagnosis is announced as the Hur tapes are being released, as the Jake Tapper book is being released, calling out all of Joe Biden's faults and failures, physically, mentally, you name it. It's not a coincidence. Now, as for the prostate cancer, any doctor will tell you, not just Dr. Stinchfield. That's me. I love to play a doctor. This was a tweet I saw. Dr. Stephen Quay. Prostate cancer is the easiest cancer to diagnose when it first starts and watch it progress to bone metastasis. The PSA blood test shows the rate of cancer cell growth. For even with the most aggressive form, it is a 5 to 7 year journey without treatment before it becomes metastastic, meaning it would be malpractice for this patient to show up and be first diagnosed with metastatic disease in May of 2025. It is highly likely he was carrying a diagnosis of prostate cancer throughout his White House tenure, and the American people were uninformed. I believe that assessment. Because if you look at how President Trump releases his medical records, even go back to George Bush and Obama, how they released their medical records, very different from the summaries that we got from the doctor for Joe Biden's medical records. We get actual numbers for President Trump's. They're open and honest about all of this stuff, which is really a very, very good thing. So I'm going to play some of those tapes. If you haven't heard them, I've got the whole tape. I'm going to play those tapes in its entirety, but I figured this was a good opportunity to talk about health and what I'm dubbing the My555challenge.com. It's not what I'm dubbing. It's what my buddy John Jubilee is dubbing. This is the last day to sign up for it. Watch this.
Your blood should actually be this consistency, like water.
That's right, because blood is actually 92% water. When we lose hydration out of the blood, it becomes like this. It is absolutely the root cause of high blood pressure, of actually having a brain aneurysm or a stroke.
So if you want to go from this to this,
come and join us on our 555 challenge.
Well, it's a great challenge at that. The founder of Energized Health and the My 555 challenge is John Jubilee. He is my guest. John, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you, Grant. Great to be here.
All right. First off, let me tell everybody, 5 pounds, $5 in 5 days. This is a tremendous opportunity. You don't always have it going, but to get introduced to the Energized Health protocol, John.
Yeah, it's one of the funnest things we do, Grant. It allows people for less than the price of a cup of coffee to come and learn something new. And I just want to encourage people that, first of all, Grant has a saying, it's like the country song, you got to learn what not to do. So we are going to share with you the 5 things to never do again, 5 things to never do again so that you never fail again. So that's important. But then we're also going to share with you the things to do to have success, even over just a 5-day period. Imagine a 5-pound bag of potatoes, how much that is, losing all that fat in just 5 days. So I just want to encourage people, listen, very, very rarely in life do you get to find a real science. This is a patent pending science. We did our 3rd filing. This is a breakthrough science. We've been helping people for 28 years, guys. And, you can go do all your research online. and see the tens of thousands of people that say, I tried everything. I tried everything, and this sounded too good to be true, but this changed my life.
Well, I told you I lost 15 pounds in 2 weeks. My testosterone levels went up. My cholesterol levels went down. I think the most important thing was my blood pressure went down as well. Some of my joint pain started to ease along the way as I was going. So that's what intracellular hydration can do, and the Energized Health Protocol. You get introduced to it through the my555challenge.com. Go sign up there. John, I want to ask you about the video we just saw because your wife was talking about blood and it being thick. And I got to think of myself, when I was a kid and I would bleed, whether I cut my hand or whatever, it was so much like water. Then as an adult, I cut my hand and it's like barely dripping out like ketchup. That's a problem, but maybe this makes sense from what you guys are talking about here.
Yeah, well, it's not supposed to change. And if it is changing, it's because we have oxidative stress. We're dehydrated at the cellular level. And I want to share one real story with people, because sometimes when people, see us do a video like that, Grant, and they say, oh, those guys they're just being dramatic, because they're trying to get us to sign up for their program. You know what? We're not trying to be dramatic. We're trying to be authentic and transparent with you, to share truth with you that can change your life. And I'll share a story with you. I sat, and by the way, when you hear me say stroke, heart attack, brain aneurysm, stroke, heart attack, brain aneurysm, those are the three things that happen when we get sludge blood. And so anybody that, if your blood got thicker than it was when you were a kid, you are one step away from stroke, brain aneurysm, or a heart attack. 1 out of 3 men 50 and over in the United States of America has high blood pressure, which is one step away, stroke, brain aneurysm, heart attack. I'm repeating this on purpose because it's important. Grant, I sat with my 20-year friend in Franklin, Tennessee at a coffee shop. And when my wife got up and walked to the restroom, I put my arm around him and I said, Rob, brother, I can tell you have high blood pressure. And he smiled, and he's a very jovial guy, and he smacked my leg and he smacked me on the back and laughed and said, John, I know you want me to do your protocol, man. You want everyone to do your protocol. He said, John, I promise you, sometime this year when things slow down, I will do the protocol. And so, and he said, and I said, Rob, I can tell by looking at you, you got a little bit of high blood pressure. He said, you know what? You're right. I do. I have a little bit of high blood pressure. I'm not worried about it. Well, 4 months later, Grant, he went and spoke, actually in California, 10, 12,000 people event. He went to lunch, had a brain aneurysm at lunch on his 47th birthday and dropped dead. And so he never got the opportunity to ever do the protocol. So can I just encourage the people watching today, men and women, ladies, if you love your husbands and if you love yourself, you want to be around for your kids, you want to be around for your grandkids. Ladies, you need to do this. You need to make sure your husband does it. You say, well, I just got a little bit. Well, guess what? He just had a little bit too. He really did. He just had a little bit. And he was maybe 20 pounds overweight, by the way. This was not an obese man. This was a mover and shaker world consultant all over the world. So can I just encourage everyone, guys, invest $5 in yourself. Like, don't wait until you have a disaster. Don't wait until you get a horrible prognosis. Don't wait till you have the stroke or the heart attack. Have a little bit of wisdom, take an opportunity to come just sit with us for 5 days and let us share some breakthrough science that can make sure you live long and live strong.
Yeah, I mean, $5, 5 pounds, 5 days, and maybe you save yourself your life. It's amazing because you said he's overweight 20 pounds. I lost 15 pounds with you very, very quickly. My blood pressure went down. I don't know about my blood. Luckily, since I've been working with you, John, now many months, I haven't had any occasion to bleed, so I don't know, but I'm hoping it's much thinner than it was the last time I looked, and I'm sure it probably is. John, as always, thank you for the support of this program and helping so many people out there. I'll let people know how they can find you again. Thank you, John.
Hey, thank you.
All right, great seeing you. And again, folks, here it is. my555challenge.com, okay? Today is the last day that you can sign up for this round of the My 555 Challenge. So do it now, all right? Do not wait. I promise you, your body will thank you, your mind will thank you, your family will thank you, and you'll thank yourself when you start feeling better. My555challenge.com. All right, so that's a great program. I urge you to check it out. Now, you know who could have used the My 555 Challenge? Last day today, too, by the way, to sign up for it. You know who could have used it? Joe Biden could have used it. And why? The man is just gone. I'm going to play for you the audio tape that was released. Axios had obtained copies of this. I don't know who leaked it or how Axios got it, of all outlets to get it from the Justice Department. Why Axios? Why not? Look, I have my problems with Fox News, but Fox News is the biggest beast when it comes to so-called conservative media. It's the biggest beast, has the biggest reach. Why are you not going to release it on a site like Fox News? I don't know, unless it was leaked by the deep state, who's upset about Joe Biden, trying to change the ways of the Democrat Party, so they release it for their own benefit. Anyway, let me play some of this, and I'll let you listen to it. I won't interrupt too much.
So during this time, we were living in Chambers Road, and there were documents related to the Penn Biden Center, or the Biden, or the cancer finger shot, or your book. Where did you keep papers that related to those things that you were actively working on?
Well, I don't know. This is what, 2017, 18, that area?
Yes, sir.
Remember, in this time frame, my son is either been deployed or is dying. And so it was, and by the way, there were still a lot of people at the time when I got out of the Senate that were encouraging me to run in this period, except the president. It's not a mean thing to say. I mean, he just thought that she had a better shot of winning the presidency than I did. And so I hadn't at this point, even though I'm at Penn, I hadn't walked away from the idea that I might run for office again. If I ran again, I'd be running for president. And so what was happening though, what month did Bo die? May 30th, 2015. Was it 2015 he died?
May 2015.
I think it's 2015.
I'm not sure the months are, but I think that was That's right, Mr. President.
And what's happened in the meantime is that Trump gets elected in November of 2017? 2016. All right. So, why do I have 2017 here?
That's when you left office, in January of 2017.
Okay. But that's when Trump gets sworn in.
Right. Correct.
Okay. Yeah. And
so, folks, let me just say this: how far are we in there now? That's 2 minutes and 37 seconds from when Robert Hur asked the question, "Where do you keep these documents?" That was the question. Where do you keep these documents? He never answers that question. He's rambling on about his son, about who was elected, when. He gets the dates wrong. He's confused about all of this. To me, it is painful to listen to. You know, Robert Hur in his report, and he was criticized for it. In his report, he said he felt sorry for this man, that he was unable to stand trial. I actually look at Robert Hur's report, and I was one of the guys that was upset about this. I thought it was like a pass the buck job. We're not gonna go after this guy just because he's a Democrat. It turns out he's feeble. The man is weak-minded, weak-built. I mean, it's painful. Anybody that's had a grandfather or grandmother that has gone through this process as they get older knows exactly what you're listening to here. So 2 minutes and 37 seconds. He has not answered the question, where do you keep the documents?
In 2017, Bo had passed, and this is personal. The genesis of the book and the title, Promise Me Dad, was I know you're all close with your sons and daughters, but Bo was like my right arm, and that was my left. These guys were a year and a day apart, and they could finish each other's sentences. And Bo, I used to go home on the train in the period that I was still in the Senate. Anyway, do you remember? There was not pressure. Bo.
So first off, he hasn't answered the question. He's talking about Hunter and Joe being his left and right arm. Hunter and Bo being his left and right arm. I think he still thinks that Bo Biden died in Iraq. I think he really believes this. He knows there's cancer, but he keeps telling the story over and over again how Bo died in Iraq when he didn't. His son died of cancer. I have accused Joe over the years of making this concocted story of Bo being some kind of a war hero dying in Iraq when it just wasn't true. I think Joe Biden actually believes it in some form. That he's told the story to himself over and over again. That's what he wants to believe, that his son didn't die of a brain tumor. It is. I don't know how else to describe it other than sad.
Knew how much I adored him, and this sounds so. Everybody knew how close we were. There was not anybody in the world who wondered whether or not. Anyway. And so
I'm wondering if this is a good time to take a break briefly.
Let me just keep going to get it done.
See, even Robert Hur says, maybe it's time we take a break. You're not doing so great here. You haven't answered any of the questions. We're trying to figure out why you're keeping classified documents in your garage. And you're rambling on about your kids. Sad story. And yes, Jam7070 in the Rumble chat says, sad to hear. I think anybody with a heart would tell you this is sad to hear. What makes it difficult is this man did so much to damage this country. Yes, with somebody else pulling the strings, of course, but he still was right there, and Jill Biden, the whole family, they used their positions of power. I believe that Joe Biden, I said it earlier, I don't think he was an evil guy like I do believe Obama was an evil guy, but I do believe Joe Biden's a crook. I believe he's a crook to the heart. I believe the crime family that the Bidens ran was very real, the Biden crime family. It was about enriching their pockets. It was about power and those types of things, and about wealth and prestige. That's why he wanted to be president. I don't think it had anything to do with his love of country. I think he knew he could line the family's pockets, and that's what they did. But that still, folks, is most certainly sad to hear. And all the while, they had covered it up.
Does the president have the stamina, physically and mentally, do you think, to continue on even after 2024?
Don, you're asking me this question. Oh, my gosh. He's the president of the United States. You know, I can't even keep up with him.
The most difficult part about a meeting with President Biden is preparing for it, because he is sharp, intensely probing and detail-oriented and focused.
I can testify because I've been working very closely with this president for the past 2 years. I've been knowing him for 30 years. And I'm telling you, this guy's tough. He's smart. He's on his game.
Joe Biden has vision. He has knowledge. He has a strategic.
I can't listen to it anymore. We've gone down this road over and over again. Everybody has, right? Of playing them defending Joe Biden, now with everybody questioning, saying they knew it. The only one, I didn't pull the clip, the only one is James Clyburn. James Clyburn's one of the architects, too, by the way, of Democrat deceit. But he did what I would have done. If I was covering for somebody like this, I would have doubled down. I would have been like, I understand people say it. I never saw it. I still to this day said he could have done another 4 years. I would have just kept sticking with it. That's what James Clyburn did over the weekend. I should have pulled that clip. He says, no. Joe Biden was great. Fully there. Oh, what's the old, it wasn't me. It wasn't me, right? The old rap song. I won't play the lyrics. This is a family show. Anyway, we'll play more of this out on the Real America's Voice show tonight. And a big story developing. President Trump has a phone call with Vladimir Putin today. We know the two get along, much to the dismay of the mainstream media and those on the left. We'll get into what happened on President Trump's phone call tonight with Vladimir Putin and go through it all for you on the Real America's Voice show. That's tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern time on Real America's Voice. Roku, Pluto, anywhere you get streaming platform, even just the website. That's where you can get it. Don't forget my website, links to all the places you can find me, including the radio program in the morning that we stream on Rumble as well, 9 to 12 Eastern time out on the Morning Answer, AM 870. That's a fun show. GrantStinchfield.com, GrantStinchfield.com. Sign up for the email list there. Catch all the episodes of the podcast. This will be posted on the Gateway Pundit today and a little bit later. So check that out. A lot of places to find us. All I ask of you, my dear Stinchfield Army members, just keep doing what you're doing. Keep fighting. Keep spreading the word. Keep telling people about the program. Recruit new members, and we keep growing. All right, if you're watching on Rumble again and all the other platforms, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, copy the link, share it on social media. I'm grateful to everything you do. Stinchfield's Army rolls because of all of you. We will see you back here tomorrow morning. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you tonight on RAF.